two-way cat boxes. You've been asking for them, and SoundTools now has the boxes and two-way cattails ready to ship. Let's see what they've come up with. Huge thanks as always to Patreon members who support this channel and to anybody who watches my videos on Amazon. I'll link them below. There's tons of them about all sorts of different stuff. We're talking about audio over cat cables once again today. If you're not familiar with the concept or with what SoundTools has on offer in this world, I have 8 or 9 videos or so on the channel that go into depth on their various products. What you need to know to watch this video though is that shielded Cat 5e 6 or 7 cable has 4 high quality twisted pairs of wire inside, and these types of boxes use those 4 pairs along with the shield as a shared ground to send analog or digital audio or even DMX lighting control or intercom signals to another location. Once you've made a run with the cat cable, you can place a box or a set of their tails on each end, and both give you standard XLR connectors to connect to your other gear as needed. The 2 big advantages with audio over cat is having disconnects at each end that don't cost a fortune and a ton of time to build, and also being able to use relatively inexpensive and thin and lightweight cat network cable instead of expensive, thick, and heavy traditional multi-core. This can be a really big deal if you're flying your rig somewhere or need to be careful shipping it or trucking it. Weight is always a consideration. So with that in mind, it's easy to understand why folks have been asking after two-way versions of these boxes. It's very common to need to send a couple of channels one way to a location while needing to pick up a signal from the same location coming back the other way. You can always use turnarounds with the standard versions of these, but it's really nice to have a purpose-built solution. Specs-wise, as ever, they've used genuine Neutrik XLR and EtherCon connectors all around on both the boxes and the tails. On the tails, they've given us 24 inches of premium Mogami 3080 cable, and that is rated for AES digital audio and DMX signals. That should be enough length for patching within racks and console doghouses, and it's nice to see such a high-quality cable used even for a short run. Though 3D printing or using modern synthetic materials can produce great results these days, I appreciate the feel and quality that SoundTools is able to get by milling many of their products. Dave did show us some prototype composite cat boxes a few years back at the NAMM show, and while I would love to see them do composite versions of their stuff for folks who want it, kind of the same way that Keen offers some of their work boots with either a steel toe or a composite toe for different applications, but I'd hate to see them move away from metal completely because the quality they get is excellent. I talked about this in my first Rat Sniffer Sender video 6 years ago, how the quality they achieve reminds me of the classic mini mag light and how nice that is to hold and use. I'll link that video below if you haven't seen it. Getting back to the boxes, we can open one up to see how they've changed things inside. One of the first things you might notice is how the PCB is now in 2 parts. From what I understand, this is to just simplify the assembly process, as trying to get opposing EtherCon connectors into this case on a single PCB is a pretty fiddly bit of work. Another thing you might notice inside is the new ground lift jumper. On the original cat boxes, this was a push button that was accessible from the outside of the case, which not only cost more for the part, but also the assembly and the additional hole that needed to be drilled. So another smart cost savings there on the ground lift jumper. When you're ordering either the tails or the boxes, you have 2 configurations to choose from, and that's going to either be with input XLRs in positions 1 and 2 and output XLRs in positions 3 and 4, or the opposite of that, where you get the output XLRs in the first 2 positions and the input XLRs following. I also think it's important to mention how nice the packaging is for all of SoundTools products, in my opinion. The tails each come in a custom deep red colored tool bag, and I believe that this is the only way you can get this particular color bag right now, though I'll link their other popular bag colors in the description too. The boxes come in a hard box, which you can reuse to carry the cat box or repurpose to organize other small tools in a workbox drawer.
Box, 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 box.
I'm sure it's easier for them to pack and ship the boxes rather than the bags, but if they ever decide to ship everything out in a tool bag in the future, as they do with the tails, I personally wouldn't complain. I've carried a set of 2 original cat boxes in just one of their tool bags in my backpack going to gigs plenty of times, and they hold up great. Thanks to everyone who leaves questions or comments on any of my videos. For a small channel, that little bit of interaction helps more than you could imagine, so let's try to answer some together here. Here's a few examples of probably the most common question I see about these audio over cat products, and that's how to connect them to different digital mixing boards, whether it's the PreSonus or Behringer X series or even the X Air series with the alternate port somebody's asking about here. And it's important just to realize, and I've talked about this in many other videos, that these are a passive snake solution. There's no active electronics here, and these do not work with AES-50 SuperMac. They don't work with Ultranet. They are not a digital snake like those that are being asked about here in these comments. It's much easier just to think of these like a traditional snake with a few exceptions, but you're going to be patching with regular XLR cables to whatever mixer or other gear you're using, just as you would with a traditional analog multi-core snake. Of course, like any other multi-core snake, you can use these with mixers like the XR18, and here's a great example from iMark 7777777 on how they use a bunch of these boxes to not only hit different parts of a stage with drop boxes, but also to do really fast changeovers from different components that move and come and go throughout a show. So great information from them. Thanks for those comments as well. Another question that comes up pretty often is, are there any local dealers to you, this case UK dealers? And yes, HD Pro Audio in the UK is a dealer for SoundTools, and no matter where you are in the world, check out the SoundTools website and you can find dealers that are a lot closer to you and will probably have stuff in stock locally. So really handy if you're not in the USA. Another extremely common question about audio over cat cable is, can you use phantom power for condenser mics? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Phantom power travels on pins 2 and 3, referencing pin 1 as a 0-volt reference of ground. So as long as you've got all of those intact, you can use phantom power. It's going to act just like it would on a normal snake. Finally, for questions, we'll end on a good one. Is crosstalk between channels an issue when running mic and line level signals alongside one another? The answer to this is yes, crosstalk can be an issue, although it's going to have more to do with the cable you're using rather than the boxes or tails. Cat 5e, Cat 6, and 7 all have different characteristics as far as crosstalk is concerned, and from one type or brand of cable to the next, you're going to experience different performance. For the best rejection, you'll want to use a high quality cable that has individual foil shields around each twisted pair, and from SoundTools you can get that with their SuperCat sound cable, their SuperCat 7, or their new SuperCat FM cables that just hit the market. So thanks again to everyone who leaves questions or comments on these videos. It's always great to hear what you're thinking, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments on this video if you've got any questions or anything to say about what we covered here today.